directive, knowledgeable articles that listeners and learners. Myths of the mall and scandal point. I have received calls from friends asking about the origin of the word mall. These inquiries have been tied to Shimla's eponymous and famous promenade, a little bit of truth mixed with a substantial amount of falsehood has been passed around somewhat convincingly and seems to have been quite effective. This is still doing the rounds like a never-ending weed on the internet and on that amount of infinite knowledge. Perceived forwards, one claim was that the word mall is an acronym for many accommodations. Living line in some the word married has been substituted for military. Well, the military had its line at a considerable distance from Shimla's mall, and unless the living was done under shop counters and in drawers stuffed with lines, linen, the story is as false as many of the others that have been connected with the street. That is not to say that people did not live on the mall. Many shoppers of bankers lived above their commercial premises. These shop houses were something that have the place much of its character and ensure that the mall remained lively even after the banks had closed. And the shops had pulled down their shutters. It did not seem like that deserted places that Chandigarh Sector 17 or New Delhi's Nehru Place become after shop hours. Across India, apart from Shimla, many colonial towns or water mist, westminster, westernized expansion of older cities had a more Lahore, Amritsar, Masuri, Koshali, and Darjeeling, to name just a few. While the process of transfer of the word small from England to far-flung former colonies, taking on the role of a high street, remain open to calculated conjecture. There is no doubt that it originates in London. There is a kilometer-long mall that connects Buckingham Palace to Trafalgar Square and continues to serve as a ceremonial route. The second, also in London, is the famous and fashionable Pall Mall, which goes back to the 17th century and is lined with small shops and clubs, both of the origin of their names and purpose to the game of Pall Mall or Pall Mall. A precursor of crockpot and played with the ball and mallet. In turn, the English word for the game is derived from the Italian palmagolio, meaning a ball and a mallet. Other bits of false news, fake stories, and accepted reality have to maneuvered over the mall. One being that no Indians were permitted there, any number of old photographs barely dispatched. Also, there was an overwhelming number of Indians who owned shops and other establishments, and almost all the staff were Indian. This, however, does have a small ring of truth. There was a bylaw, municipal bylaw that proclaimed that no job porter or police would solicit employment, loiter, or carry loads during the evenings on specified streets, including the mall. This bylaw was twisted to include ill-dressed Indians and later to khadi-clad freedom fighters who would be hustled off the street, but perhaps nothing has been as accepted as the multiple myths of Scandal Point. Sadly, the most salacious story of them all is that there was no scandal. When the soon to be famous Rudyard Kipling came to Shimla, the summer capital of India, he wrote of its glittering social swell and endless worship. He created a world that was part fiction, part fable, and part reality. Those word images are still with us. In 1888, Kipling's story, The Education of Otis Gide, was first published. Of his creation, two characters appear in the story. There is Mrs. Mellow and the formidable Mrs. Hawksby, who was sometimes nice to her own sex, while she had the wisdom of the serpent, the logical coherence of man, the fearlessness of child, and the triple intuition of the woman. It is in this story that the phrase scandal point first appeared in the print. Your saloon would become a glorified Paltis, says Mrs. Mellow, a scandal point by lamplight. From this moment on, this phrase from Kipling's Panthers perceived reality, and with passing years steadily gathers more stories. Going by the popular tale, a Maharaja of Patiala carried off a British Viceroy's daughter or wife from this world on Shimla's Mall. The Maharaja in question at the time of this supposed incident wasn't born, and if he was, he would have been an infant years ago. As now little or large gatherings have started out the word at this crossroad and exchanged worship. Within the course of a conversation, governments have risen and fallen on scandal point. There is hushed talk of who ran off with whom and who would like to run off with whom in a word scandal. The so-called connection with Patiala probably stems from the fact that the Patiala Darbar had a Walkichana in the middle bazaar just below Scandal Point. Here employees of the Patiala Darbar worked and conducted the sundry matters of this influential princely state in 1929, and disgruntled citizens of Patiala drew up a list of charges against the Maharaja. The British Viceroy of India, Lord Wellington, cleared the Maharaja of all charges. Employees at the Wakil Khanna, like many others, would probably shun themselves and air their views to anyone who would care to listen. With this incident, both the Maharaja and Scandal Point have passed into urban legends. At Corbett Park, once more. Credit for raising awareness in our natural world must be given to the British. We have recently returned from a reviving break at the Corbett National Park. This natural sanctuary and wildlife park is one of the earliest of its kind and a favorite one of the magic reasons for this is that it is named after a person who was worshipped all over the Tarai and Kumau at Corbett Star. Jim Corbett, to give him his proper name, was born and brought up in India and was passionately fond of fostered forest and animals. Initially, a game hunter who hunted tigers and leopards for sport like several others of that time. Later, he became a fierce protector of the tiger and its cousins called Bag all over this area and lived happily amongst leopards and panthers. His sister Maggie and faithful dog Robin followed him wherever he went, and his jungle tales make for fascinating reading to matter. How many times you may have read them. Corbett's home in Nainital, Gurney House, was close to where he lived in Ayalpata, a thickly wooded part of Nainital, where many old Jamidars and Talukadar families have cottages and homes to escape and sultry monsoons of the plains. The Tarai was also where many refugee families from West Punjab were allotted farms to compensate for the land they had left behind. In the 1950s and 1960s, the Tarai was a marshy, unhealthy tract full of tigers, snakes and killers, Martian mosquitoes. This is why many chose to send their families and children to the cooler hills just hours away and study at the public schools Nainital was famous for. This long introduction is because when I went to the lovely resort, we stayed in this time I was delighted to meet the person who ran with as he turned out to be the grandson of someone we knew as the Rana of Pilivit. I remember Pilivit House, where his grandparents lived in. Now runs as a post hotel, and one of his aunts was in school with me. There is something about Kumau Hills that compels you to come back over and over again. Each time I go, I get the feeling of returning to my mother's warmth. In fact, I can name the exact spot where this happens, chatting with the owner of this delightful river view retreat. I felt I had met a soulmate because he spends most of his time here while running his huge chain of hotels and resorts. The Corbett Park is strictly guarded and only the old forest department dark bungalow named Dhikala is inside the park. Naturally, you need serious Sarkari connections to be able to stay here, as so a number of resorts have sprung up all the way from Ramnagar to the forest limit of the Corbett National Park, spread over 2,800 kilometers, square kilometers, and divided into six zones. You have to be very lucky to spot a tiger. Day of our morning sparring, I'm afraid old tiger had left for curious visitors was a lump of shift to let us know what he thought of idiots like us. Sadly, elephant safaris are not allowed any longer, so we have so we were suffered. into an open jeep that made such a racket that only monkeys and mangoes languid stayed on to see what fools announced their entry too noisily. However, on our next safari in another John, we finally managed a tiger sighting and all the noisy chatter from others. Jeep, Jeeps with cranky kids and chattering adults came to halt. The magnificent king of the jungle is the lord of all. He surveys and we could only gap at the confidence of his royal gates. His royal gate as he walked across the savannah grass. Believe me, a visit to a national wildlife park is what all parents of young children must make. Quite apart from the serenity and silence of the forest is the feeling that man is lowest form of life on earth. Watching a tiger in a zoo will never show you the magnificent camouflage, the savannah grass and strips provide this regal animal. It takes the trained eye of a guide to spot bug marks and observe the claw mark and on a tree trunk to calculate when a tiger last passed that route. The alarm system set in motion by the parakeets, the barking deer, and the chattering monkeys warns the deer that they are being stopped. I am sad that our school children are rarely taken an expedition to families to familiarize them with the flora and fauna of the country. Discovery Channel or Animal Planet can never replace the thrill of actually being able to hear, see, and experience the beauty of the Indian jungle. A museum has been created by the Forest Department where, apart from the suffered animals, stimulated sounds of rain and thunders are played in a dark room for visitors to demonstrate how frightening the sound of thunder and the crack of lightning can be. When you are in a forest at night, the Stygian darkness of a stormy night, or the eerie feeling that you are being watched again send shivers down the spine. Rest, repositioning God as a marketable product. The spiritual and ascetic in Hinduism has been replaced with a commercial and extravagant. Marx missed the full picture when he described religion as an opiate of the masses. So did George Carlin when he claimed that God was fiction. For today. Neo-capitalism and right-wing fundamentalism have assigned God a new role and turned him into an FMCG, fast-moving consumer good. Far from being an opiate, he is now a stimulant for consumption on gigantic scale, the driver of GDP and GST growth. If along the Lafferty curve a few customers die in a stampede or fire, that is acceptable collateral damage. A tax write-off where the public picks up the bill while the high priest of Manmon go chuckling to the bank. The Mahakumbh, which the UP government claims will add 2 lakh rupees crore to the state's GDP, is the hypothesis of this new divine law. Hindu religion, being one of the main pillars of the BJP's very existence and power play, It has to be constantly glorified, punished, and made larger than life. As Noah Harari asserts, a religion is not just its deities, but also the social functions it performs. The BJP's aim is to ensure that one of these social functions is legitimizing and consolidating its powers and narrow worldview given these high stakes. Hinduism can no longer be left to be Hinduism can no longer be left to the tender mercies of the Shankaracharya's, Mahamandeshwara's, priest, purohits, or the humble devotees and pilgrims in the villages. It must be ornamentalized, over hyped and aggrandized, made a TV spectacle, a platform for projecting the prayer party and the PM as its prime custodian. This is continuation of medieval. This is continuation of a medieval mindset we thought the modern world had left behind. Did not the emperors and kings of that time build cathedrals, pyramids, gigantic statues, temples, and monuments to perpetuate their own myths, dogmas, and personalities to remain in the public eye and memory? Were kings and pharaohs not considered embodiments of the divine power? Religion may be fiction, so it has to be dressed up for the grandeur, for grander the fiction, the easier it is to get the public to swallow it. It is in this backdrop that we must understand this government's hostile takeover of religion and its obsession with the deification of our religious places and the conversion of all major Hindu festivals into a Cecil de Mille type of Hollywood production. A few recent instances will help to establish this point. The inauguration of the new Parliament building on May 28, 2023 was done with the splendor of a Roman coronation, complete with a single substituting for a sculpture and a procession of high priests. A social, secular, political function was transformed into a religious one. The collection of the Ram temple in Ayodhya, built at a reported cost of 1800 crore rupees, was an even grander event. The temple having been built up for weeks before, like some gladiatorial show at the Colosseum. The Kashi Vishwanath corridor. The Kashi Vishwanath corridor, which will cost 800 crore rupees when all its phases are complete, was hyped up as the rebirth of Varanasi, another reformation of resurgent Hinduism. The restriction of hundreds of houses and private temples to make way for the corridors was, of course, acceptable collateral damage. The Char Dham highway creeping through the heart of the Himalayas and built against all environmental consideration is gain and emblem of religious revivalism. Even though it is rationalized on strategic defense grounds, it will cost about 12,000 crore rupees. A dedication and wholly unnecessary highway is being built for the convenience in UP at a cost of 650 crore rupees. and are reported 33,000 trees. Once again, to project religion in a larger than life format to milk religious sentiments. Exaggerated claims of the Mahakumbh, its deafening publicity and 24 into 7 media coverage. The Guinness scale of infrastructure created at a reported cost of 7,000 crore rupees and 5,000 crore rupees by the railways is again meant to amplify the same message. It's the same festivals. The Kumbh has been celebrated since time immemorial. But the frenzy this year was unprecedented with even blanket from the during Sangam. Water is being offered online and someone else taking a dip on your behalf for a nominal charge. I have lived in Delhi for 50 years but have never witnessed occasions like Ganesh Chaturthi, Chhat Puja, or Valia Yatras being magnified to the kind of spectacles we witness nowadays. This resurgence of this resurgence of a placid faith is clearly contrafunded and mystified with a purpose. Somewhere along the way, the spiritual and ascetic in Hinduism has been replaced with a commercial and extravagant to serve the function of a political party, which should not surprise anyone because religion has been always have been a business and tool for power. PM says from New Delhi, agri grows rural prosperity, twin objectives of central development in the agriculture sector and prosperity in villages are the twin objectives towards which the government is working. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said on Saturday, addressing a post-budget webinar on agriculture and rural prosperity. Modi observed that agriculture is the first engine of development and that the budget reflects continuity in policies while expanding the vision for a developed India, highlighting the success of the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi. Modi said nearly rupees 3,075 lakh crore had been transferred to the accounts of 11 crore farmers. The annual financial assistance of rupees 6,000 is strengthening the rural economy, he said. The Prime Minister further pointed out that agricultural production has risen from 265 million tons to over 330 million tons in the past decade. We have announced the formation of PM Dhan Dhane Krishi Yojana in the budget. Under this, focus will be on the development of 100 districts with the lowest agricultural productivity in the country, he said. It is important to implement this year's budget in a speedy manner. The budget has been formed and our entire focus should be on the action, Modi said, adding that the stakeholders should identify obstacles and shortcomings in budget implementation. The Prime Minister highlighted ICAR's contributions, stating that between 2014 and 2024, more than 2,900 new varieties of food grains, pulses, and sugarcane and other crops were developed using modern tools and cutting-edge technology in the breeding program. You have to ensure these new varieties are available at affordable rates to farmers. We also need to ensure farmers' produce is not affected by weather aberrations or descent. UK, France, Ukraine to work on truce plan. Discussion with US says Starmer of London. Attach European element to guarantee security. US backstop to stop Putin from making promises among essentials. Mayawati's ex-nephew says no party successor take my last breath. From New Delhi, Uttarakhand such opponents and as bodies of all workers from avalanche stall it from Dehradun got order FIR against ex Saviji, five others on fraud complaint. Boxes before boxes. Unopened CBI officers said no. Used as evidence. USAID cut reapers curtains down on India's first transgender clinic. A dark school goes to Mumbai for classes, memories, and vada pav. HP emerges as leading exporter of rainbow eyed over to AP, Uttarakhand, Sikkim from Shimla. While Sukhu government's Vitushi temple fund for schemes has backfired from Shimla. Haryana youth who went wishing while trekking in Himachal still untraceable from Nahan. Unauthorized structures built by drug smugglers based in Jalandhar, news from Jalandhar. Rajdhani Rajni Patil calls on Sukhu discusses state party matters from Shimla. A poor daughter's wedding. A temple, a club, a show honor together and separately. They open purse strings and ask for a poor daughter's wedding. 13.48 crore rupees in 15 years. That is what the Chintpuri temple managed by the Una district administration had spent on the weddings of poor women from April 2009 till March 2024. Wedding number 2050 and counting, and the many good Samaritains, Samaritans of Una who made it happen. More than 200 than know the number sweets and sweets. Farm agitation has a new face. 31-year-old engineer turned spokesperson. News from Ludhiana. There is a young and fast rising fish among the famous protesting at Kanori now for more than a year. An engineer who moved into student politics and then farming. 31-year-old Abhimanyu Kohar is part of the former delegation that has been holding talks with the center. Is a prominent presence by the side of a fasting farmer leader, reaching the Liveland, one of his spokespersons who gave daily briefings to the media at the Kanori protest site on Punjab's border with Haryana. The idea space says in America first and opening. US President Donald Trump's latest push for reciprocal tariffs is aimed at reducing trade deficits and aligns with his border America First policy. In search of greener pastures, migration can work for all. Its governments across countries collaborate with successful immigrants, giving cities their due. India's urban centers need to plan better to tackle pollution, climate change. Orchestrated, financially backed conversions concerning VP says actors are not your slaves. Opponents parties slammed Shiv Kumar over nuts and bolts remarks. Kerala men showed that in Jordan while trying to illegally cross over to Israel from Univ.Puram. They stand unite by light of purpose. Ahead, Rahul on Kerala Congress leaders. Turning the corners. In the previous quarter, the showdown was primarily driven by a decline in consumption and investment. Government spending also acted as a significant drag. This deceleration in consumption growth was largely attributed to weakening urban demand as reflected in various high-frequency indicators. A tempering of leveraged consumption was evident with the growth of unsecured retail lending showing due to RBI's regulatory restrictions on personal loan a strong footing. When the belief wins from Zelensky showdown underlines the dangers of live streaming diplomacy. The women's are you can't say that I own the platform but I am not responsible for the content. Changes to Workout Bill to proposed by JPC now cleared by Cabinet Market Crash. Market crash, why, what now? Several reasons for crash opportunity in large caps. US tariffs not main reason domestic factors are key. Legacy of Khusrau, musical flag bearer of Sufism's pluralistic tradition. Savita Punya and hockey a love story. Bus ek baar, just this one time, Savita Punya kept telling herself as she struggled through her game and life until she fell in love with the goalpost and her hockey stick. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Ladies and gentlemen, students, scholars, teachers, trainers, professionals, listeners, learners, all my dear friends, I heartily welcome all of you. Thank you. Thanks. Nice to see all of you.